You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
And a very good morning. It's 65 degrees at 7:40 on this Thursday, September 14th. I'm Scott Stanford. Here's what's happening. Tragedy at a high-rise in Fort Lee. A 7-year-old boy dies after falling 21 stories. A massive rally coming up tonight in Brooklyn to protest Floyd Bennett Field as a migrant center, as the mayor's looking to get asylum seekers work ASAP. Gucci, Rolex, other high-end knockoff vendors cleared out in a massive counterfeit bust in Chinatown. Former President Trump going to be restricted on how he can look at and talk about classified info in his documents case. Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers says he's heartbroken after going down with a season-ending injury on the fourth play of Game 1. Checking sports, Mets beat the D-backs again. Yanks rained out in Boston. They'll do a day-night double dip today. AccuWeather, now you're talking, baby. Just a delightful day. Sunshine, dry, high around 76. Almost feels like fall. Winds News Time, 7:41. Traffic and transit on the ones. Karen Stewart, I'm sure it's all sunshine out on the roads this morning.
Oh, yes, and daffodils and butterflies. and then there's the Clearview, right? The Clearview is a mess, a disaster on the southbound side. If you're coming into Queens via the Bronx, avoid the Throgs Neck Bridge and the Clearview. The Clearview down by the LIE has this major accident involving 3 tractor trailers. It's blocking the left lane. The ramp to the LIE is now open. It's not closed anymore, but the left lane is what's managed to be blocked. We had all lanes closed for a moment there to try to get things in action, but we are jammed back to the Throgs Neck Bridge on the southbound Clearview. The Whitestone into Queens is much, much better, and the Whitestone Expressway is doing well, traveling down into Northern Boulevard. Did I say Northern Boulevard? Well, we've got delays on the BQE westbound from Northern Boulevard, actually maybe even a little bit further north than that, traveling down into the Kosciuszko Bridge and into Metropolitan Avenue. Over at the Hudson Rivers, we check what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 45, that's the number. Inbound Holland, Lincoln, and the GW Bridge. And we still have A and C subway train delays with alternate side of the street in effect today. We're sponsored by New York Waterway Ferry. Want a better way to the city? Take the ferry from Port Imperial, Weehawken. With indoor parking, fast, frequent, reliable ferries, and free connecting shuttles throughout Manhattan, taking the ferry is simply the best way to New York. Visit New York Waterway, nywaterway.com, or call 1-800-53-FERRY. I'm Karen Stewart, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Well, police are still trying to find out how a 7-year-old boy fell to his death from a high-rise apartment building in Fort Lee last night.
A stunning tragedy, 5:30 in the afternoon yesterday. From the 21st floor of this 22-story Hampshire House building is where the 7-year-old boy fell from. He was pronounced dead at Hackensack University Medical Center. Now, as first responders gathered around the building here on Anderson Avenue, many of the residents stood and stared.
What that poor mom and dad or whoever is going through is my first reaction. So as a neighbor, I'm just feeling a lot.
Now, the Bergen County prosecutor is leading this investigation, hopefully getting some additional information from him later this morning. The child so far has not yet been identified. Glenn Shuck, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Fort Lee.
That story is absolutely awful. As a massive rally in Brooklyn is expected tonight to protest the migrants staying at Floyd Bennett Field, Mayor Adams launching yesterday what he calls an expedited sprint to identify migrants who are eligible to work right now and to apply for work authorization. The city and state is dealing with out-of-control spending to take care of tens of thousands of asylum seekers. So how quickly can they get their applications to work processed? Here's Masha Gindler. She's the executive director of the Asylum Application Help Center.
For a majority of asylum seekers that we are seeing, they can only apply for work authorization 150 days after the federal government has received their asylum application.
And after that period has passed, applicants will get a call to return to the Help Center where they will file their authorization form. And as migrants continue to stay in an old school building on Staten Island, one guy who lives right next door recently had a loudspeaker on his front lawn, sending a message that the migrants aren't wanted.
Scott Herkert has a problem with the city. He says this community had no idea the former St. John Villa Academy would be used to house migrants.
You don't know where they came from or whether they were vetted or whatnot. So, yeah, there's an uncomfortable feeling, especially more importantly is when you see the government doing it in secret.
You're being lied to. This building is not safe for humans. The community wants you to go back to New York City.
That came from a loudspeaker recently heard on Herkert's front lawn.
They come here and they're a building where they're all in one room with 300 people, all on cots, all on top of each other, in a building that's not even functional.
A spokesperson for the mayor says the administration is disturbed by false messages being played. Some neighbors say migrants have knocked on their doors asking for things. Osman Diallo says it hasn't been a nuisance for him, but he understands his neighbors.
I think they're right. They need to live in peace.
Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM on Staten Island.
Wins News Time 7:45. The seemingly endless fight over dreamer children staying in the U.S. hit another roadblock yesterday, with a federal judge again declaring the DACA program illegal.
The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program lets undocumented immigrant children brought to the U.S. as infants stay in the country, work, and go to school. Once again, a federal judge has declared that DACA program illegal. The judge saying he's sympathetic to those now grown children, but rules that a president alone cannot decide immigration law. That is up to Congress. The judge letting the program continue for now. The Supreme Court will likely get the case.
That's Andy Field reporting. The Biden administration criticized the judge's ruling, saying they are deeply disappointed in the DACA ruling. New Yorkers are going to be able to start getting the new COVID vaccines by the end of the week, which means tomorrow, right? It's one dose, courtesy of either Pfizer or Moderna. New York Governor Hochul says she's been notified that doses of the new vaccine were shipped on Tuesday. The governor clarified, this is not a booster. It is a new vaccine designed to attack those new variants.
Cases are up. Let's put that in context. If you look at statewide where we've been, the average cases per 100,000, 14, almost 15. That's a 7-day average.
Governor reminding everybody, even if you've been vaccinated and boosted in the past, that won't protect you from this new variant. Hey, you know, when you walk through the streets of New York, you see those vendors on the sidewalks with the knockoff Louis Vuitton bags or the Gucci's, the Rolex watches, all those high-end designs at flea market prices. Well, police did a massive sweep along Canal Street from Church to Broadway and other hot counterfeit spots. Police responding to many complaints from the community there in Chinatown.
It was entered into the community link, which is what brought out our response here today. It resulted in 18 arrests and over 3 truckloads full of merchandise.
Based on the value of the real items the knockoffs were imitating, the cops estimate the value of the bust at $35 million. A judge ruled yesterday that former President Trump will be restricted when it comes to reviewing and talking about classified evidence in Mr. Trump's documents case.
A federal judge in the case charging Donald Trump with illegally hoarding top-secret documents at his Florida estate has directed the former president to use a secure facility to review classified evidence and has sharply restricted Trump's ability to discuss that information with others. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon issued a protective order saying that Trump and his legal team cannot disclose classified information in the case to anyone other than the judge or government personnel with appropriate security clearances on a need-to-know basis or others specifically authorized to access that information. Earlier this week, prosecutors balked at the Trump camp's request to reestablish a secure facility similar to what Trump had as president, strongly objecting to the idea of setting up such a facility at Mar-a-Lago. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Yesterday, escaped convicted murderer Danilo Cavalcante was finally caught after 2 weeks on the run in Pennsylvania. So how did he manage to do it for so long?
Subject is in custody. Confirmed subject is in custody.
Authorities say Danilo Cavalcante admitted during 4 hours of questioning that law enforcement got so close, officers almost stepped on him 3 times during the manhunt.
We were only 5 or 6 feet away.
Surviving on watermelon and drinking water from a stream while burying his bodily waste in the woods to avoid detection. Cavalcante escaped a Philadelphia area prison on August 31st, days after a jury convicted him of killing his ex-girlfriend.
How long before we see a movie about this one? The clock is ticking on this possible auto workers strike. The contracts with the 3 big automakers expires at midnight tonight.
Who are we?
The UAW wants a 40% wage increase over the next 4 years, arguing that's how much the CEOs have gotten since the last contract.
I don't mind them making all that money. That's great. But don't take away from me to pay out of your own pocket.
Other union demands, a return to pension plans, which were eliminated for new hires during the financial crisis, plus retiree health care and a 4-day work week, a demand Ford CEO says is unrealistic.
That's correspondent Terry Moran. A journalist in Mexico City says he has extraterrestrials in a box. We'll see. When's news time? 7:50. When people have it.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on my commute to work as we listen to 1010 Wins in New York together. All right, guys, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.